The SHIFT project, an Erasmus Plus funded project that has been running since December 2019, so for 2 years now. I welcome you all to this final event of the SHIFT project. I said it before, we officially started, unfortunately, online and not in person. We decided on that change in the last week, so it was a very, very short notice change. And my name is Ruth Jacobi. I'm one of the 2 Secretaries General of the European Music Council. All our SHIFT partners are here with us today, and Caroline will introduce them to you in a short moment. I will just share very briefly a few ideas, a few thoughts about the beginning of this project, which actually was born from exchanges between secretaries generals and directors from cultural networks, European cultural networks, who used to meet in person for a kind of retreat to exchange on topics of leading such cultural networks, topics that we share, concerns that we have, and we felt that we all lack in training. We all want to bring about change. We want to bring about training for our networks, and we were totally lacking training for ourselves. So we decided to design training for ourselves and to look at very specific topics, as for example, leading such a cultural network, leadership of cultural networks, but also looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, at least 3 of them. And these are the main ideas that made us design this project. And I'm very happy now to pass the word to Caroline to explain us a little bit more about what SHIFT actually is.
Thank you, Ruth, and a warm welcome from myself as well. I am, as Ruth said, the project officer of the European Music Council, and I've been working for the SHIFT project for the last years. And I will share my screen. Just give me a second. I hope you can all see it from the beginning as a full screen. If somebody can give me a, okay, good. This is we have a corporate design, and you will see that this is the same corporate and the same slides for all of the partners. But I will start with sharing you who is the SHIFT project. And this is a cooperation project of 9 partners. So I'll introduce you to them, which is European Choral Association, Transeuropal, MC, FACE, ELIA, International Music Council, IETM, On the Move, and ourselves as project coordinator, the European Music Council. And we are a project co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And why we did this, it was, as Ruth explained a bit, because we came to we saw that we lack some tools and guidelines on how to tackle big issues big global issues in the world. And especially, we decided that we needed some training to get more knowledge on specific topics, which we will share with you in a few minutes, and also to implement change, because we have seen that it's always difficult when you have your day-to-day work in a cultural organization or in an organization to really focus on more transversal topics, and that you don't have the time to really tackle and really create a change in your organization. And this is what we aim to do. And of course, as well, everything will be for free online, and we would like to share this knowledge, being networks with our members, but also with the broader cultural sector, and create synergies and cooperations. And hopefully a future is ahead of us in SHIFT. And so what we what is it about? We have looked at the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a blueprint from the United Nations. They were released in 2015, and it is kind of a to-do list for the world with 17 goals on how to create better societies. And there are different topics, and what we selected, because of obviously it's a lot of work to tackle all of these topics at the same time, we decided to focus on 3 of them. I think I went too fast, which are gender equality, Objective 5, Objective 10, reduce inequalities, and Objective 13, climate action. But we see a lot of synergies between these goals. For example, clean water is obviously related to climate action. So we hope that we can work on all the SDGs at the same time by focusing on 3 of them. And what we have done since December 2019 until now is creating some gathering some resources and creating some online manuals and guidelines on the 4 topics. And now you're wondering why I'm talking about 4. It is because we have decided to see the 3 gender reduced inequalities and environmental sustainability under the lens of cultural leadership, and how we can create change as being leaders, and how we can be the leaders of this change. And this is why we also have this as a topic, kind of a hat topic, being above, but also inside all of the other topics. And I will just quickly introduce you to the 4 topics, because I'm sure you're just waiting to hear from our partners. And so cultural leadership is led by Transeuropal, and Ferouz Tamimi will be our speaker today. And she has been working on the topic since a year now. And now we will also have on environmental sustainability, Elia has been leading the topic, and Maria Hansen will be our speaker today. And on gender and power relations, the topic leader was IETM, but they have worked in cooperation with many partners, sorry, and Marie Le Sourd will join Asa Richardsdóttir. I'm sorry for maybe pronouncing not well your name, as speakers. And our final topic is reducing inequalities, and the topic leader was European Co-Association, and Sophie Dowden will let us introduce us to their work in the inclusion topic. And of course, all of the partners were part of this process, and even though there's a leader, it was a very cooperative work. And I'll just give the word now to my colleagues, but you can, of course, find all our resources for free on our SHIFT website, and also on the knowledge base website created by Transeuropal, artsmetric.com. And if you have any questions, please contact us, but I will let my colleagues now introduce you to their work. And I will give the word to Asa and Marie to share their findings from the topic gender and power relations. And I'm really happy to have them on the floor now. Asa, the word is to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you very much. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Asa Richardsdóttir. I'm the Secretary General of IETM, who IETM has been leading the gender and power relations pockets. And we have been doing it with various partners, but our main collaborator has been on the move in the form of Marie Le Sourd, Secretary General of On the Move, plus a group of really good researchers that have been part of our group, which Marie will introduce to you a little bit later on. So we are not going to use a PowerPoint, so you're going to just see our faces. And we are still waiting for our final output to be designed, but we're going to tell you about the work that we have done so far. So the reason why we chose this topic in Shift was that we felt a strong need to contribute. And we felt driven by the Me Too movement, which had been happening for some years when we had decided to get together and create Shift. And we therefore decided to focus on sexual harassment and power abuse within the European arts sector. So that has been the focus of the Gender and Power Relation project within Shift. And with many of the most scandalous, most talked about cases in Me Too coming from our sector, we as Network felt the need to search for our role within this, how we can make a difference and how we can make our sector a safer place. Right at the outset, when we were planning the project, we concluded that we needed to shift the focus away from victims to structures, that we needed a structural change happening in workplaces, in organizations, in institutions, on city level, on governmental level, through lawmaking and through united efforts and actions. And we envisioned this structural change, how it could happen, which we felt needed to be deep-reaching and would alter the way authority and information and responsibility would flow through organizations. But we all know that we are nowhere there. Sweeping structural changes have not happened in our sector. We have, however, been witnessing increased awareness, and we have seen empowered professionals reporting on sexual harassment. We are seeing more and more organizations that are taking the topic to heart and making changes to how they operate, how they put in place procedures and preventative measures. And we really feel that the time is ripe now for a larger transnational action, and there, network like ours can contribute. We started our work last year with a pilot between IETM and ILIA, where we joined forces and did a small important research and event, which was very helpful in setting the focus for the next stage, for the bigger project. And based on that pilot, we decided to focus on stories for change from our sector, qualitative interviews, seeking examples and findings which can help small and large organizations take concrete action in their own local context. And my colleague Marilo Surt will now tell you more about what we did.
Thank you very much, Ausa, for this contextualization of our research paper that indeed is not yet online, but it's on the way to be online. And what is also interesting is that we had also a lot of process-based type of publications this year. So some initial findings are already online. So Caroline, I think you will share them. Thank you very much in the chat. So I'm Marie Le Sourd from On the Move. On the Move is a mobility information network. And but here today I'm also like the conveyor of the messenger somehow of what particularly two colleagues did on this research paper, namely Marta Kiel, who is a performance curator from Poland and was particularly associated to IETM for this project, and my colleague Katie Kiriji-Watts. So also the two of them work very much also on this research and also on the writing also of this paper. I would like also in this presentation to be quite short, so that also we have more time maybe in the breakout room, maybe to focus particularly on some recommendation that we have been formulating particularly for European Cultural Network. I will focus on three main points: the process behind this research, the main content, and after like the action to come. Indeed, so I will put also in the chat the title of our of this research paper, which is quite long, but which said basically which encompass what we wanted to reach also like through this research paper. So Me Too in the Arts calls out to structural change, research-informed recommendation for network organization on combating sexual harassment and power abuse in the European cultural sector. There are really 2 points which are very important for this document, and I think it is also one of the points is definitely transversal to all the so-called output or topics that we are dealing with. This is the idea to deal with the subject, but without duplicating what is already existing in terms of resources, documents, code of conduct, and so on. So here I would like also part of this project to acknowledge the really tremendous work that has been done by Johan Flock from FACE, Fresh Art Coalition Europe, which is also one of the Shift partner, and that work on an annotated bibliography. So this is another type of jargon of this project. So a list of policy document, code of conducts, good case practices that also can be useful on this particular question. And what we noticed, or what came to confirm a previous observation, is that many of these documents or research or legislation, legal framework, and code of conduct were mostly identified, more in Western European or Northern European country, and there was more like a gap of access to information, resource, and simple information on other contexts in Europe. So this was one also of the starting point. And the second thing also that we wanted very much to address with this document, it's more this practical aspect. So how European cultural networks, starting with the Shift partner, could be provided practical tools and guidance on how to deal with the issue in a long-term perspective. So we built very much this document on existing resources, on 23 interviews with cultural professionals in Europe, who were recommended by the Shift partner. And we had also like two very interesting feedback sessions, because as I said, we also decided to publish first some initial findings, and that were also put to discussion, so that in two meetings, one online, one during the IETM plenary meeting last October, and less than 1 month ago in Lyon, we could also get a lot of feedback, not only from the audience during the event, but also even sometime more after the event. So this is more to tell a little bit about the process. In terms of content, what you will see and what we can also a little bit discuss in the breakout room session, the content of the research paper is divided into 3 parts. First is more like main observation or challenge assumption about the issue. So of course, to also delve a bit deeper in the fact that the Me Too movement is not homogeneous. If you look at, in different European context, also the fact, and this was also very striking in all the interview, or most of them that we conducted, that the process of change is often resource intensive, and that many people are exhausted, either being part of an organization when there is nobody to deal with that kind of issue, so it adds on their regular workload without any time or funding compensation, and people are basically not trained also to deal with the issue. A second part also of the document is about case studies. So we focus on particular story of change in a very concrete manner. It can be, for instance, a dance organization dealing with the issue in terms of its own functioning and governance. It can be also a comparison of code of conduct in different art schools, particularly in Scotland, Poland, and Iceland. And last but not least, there is so build with all this learning of the past 4 months, so it was also a very short time frame. We tried to propose some recommendation that we could also apply, of course, to ourselves as European Cultural Network, because we strongly believe in the role of European Cultural Network to also pave the way toward structural change, but more in a transnational manner. And I would say at 3 levels. The first level is more about providing safe places for meetings, for training, and also like to find, place to be listened to or to be inspired also by other action in other countries, for instance. Network as also place of information. Many people that we interview and also like through the different resources that we could gather mentioned the need of having a kind of database or information place where they could find different legal texts, code of conducts, good case practices, so going somehow even beyond than the annotated bibliography, for instance. And last but not least, European networks or networks in general can be also place for advocacy, of course, to advocate for instance, for better condition, for working condition for artists and cultural professionals, because you may also know that usually the precarity or the very challenging precarity of the working condition of artists and cultural professionals is also a fertile ground for all these stories of sexual harassment or power abuse to happen. And even the COVID situation is really also like exacerbating that kind of situation and precarity of the sector. So this is more what also how the recommendation and idea for change that can also be impulsed by European network are divided into information access, training, and advocacy. And before I pass back the word to Ausa, I also wanted to say, because usually when you hear, okay, when you arrive in this meeting, oh, this is the final shift event, or you have a document with some recommendation, and the fear is always that this recommendation will go in the drawer of your, table or just in a folder of your home computer. So it's also like how to start to work on this particular issue. And I think this is also something that all of us, depending on which subject we were also working at, but could already kind of start to work on. And at the level of on the move, because sometimes some people ask me, but why are you working on this particular issue? And I say, because we got a lot of questions on this issue, and we never had the information or the resource to share. We could share about social protection, taxation, visa issue eventually, but not on this particular question in relation with the mobility of artists and cultural professionals. So the idea is to continue also to work on that at the level of each network. And a last point I would like also to say in terms of advocacy, also at the level of here on the move, and I leave after Ausa to connect with the situation with IETM. What we also were challenged to research is that some, I mentioned that some country or context in Europe are much less covered in terms of information access and resource, but some sector as well. And for instance, the visual art sector, it was much more difficult to find information about the visual art sector. So this is also something that, at least at our level, in terms of advocacy for better working conditions, we will try to work on in the future months and years. Thank you very much. And I am passing back the word to Ausa also to finalize this session, and of course like to be open to your questions here and later in the working group session.
Thank you very much, Marie. Thanks a lot. So just to round up, available on the Shift website. There is a newsletter which we produced earlier this year on the topic. We have made 2 online sessions which are available. We did a physical event in Lyon. We have what we call the key takeaways also available on the Shift website. So you can already go and look at the resources that are there and see what it is that is interesting for you and what you yourself can take and think about and start executing around in your own reality. And then very soon, hopefully, we will have the big research coming fresh from the designers for everybody to read and enjoy. But just as a final point for me, I agree with Marie, network like ours can be vehicles for change. We can empower large groups of members and professionals to speak up. We can take the role of pointing out the discomforting challenges, as well as open up the avenues for solutions and joint actions. I myself want to add a safety net to our IETM events to take measures to ensure that in our large-scale events, we have a procedure, first responders which are trained to deal with cases and who are available for other members. This is something that I think we as networks and those that are leading large organizations with large events can easily do, and I think we should. And on a final note, I think we can really actively contribute to the transnational conversation and action which has to happen now if we are to get the steps further towards an actual structural change. So this is something that is very high on our mind, and we hope that you all are also thinking about these topics. So thanks a lot,